two, three, four.
Hello and welcome to the NESN Soccer Show. I'm Mark, here with Marcus as always, and it is Thursday, May 10th, and we had a bit of a rundown planned out for this show that included Wayne Rooney, but we've moved him all the way up to the top because there seems to be some pretty defiant reports that he will be coming to MLS to play for DC United. This has been in the works for a little while. Apparently the discussions privately have been ongoing for over a month, and it's just one more big name coming to MLS, another one sort of after their prime. But I mean, Wayne Rooney's Wayne Rooney. So, Marcus, does this excite you?
No.
No.
I mean, Wayne Rooney is a national obsession in England.
Yeah.
I'm not English.
Right.
I appreciate English soccer as much as the next man, but Wayne Rooney has been a fading force on the field for the last, I don't know, let's say 4 years.
Yeah.
And if we just add, I think the contract he's talking about is for 2.5 years, expires in 2020. So it's just, this is it's his swan song, and he's coming here. I don't see him as somebody who's going to, Lexi Lawless said it, move the needle.
He doesn't have quite the Zlatan effect, do you think?
No, because, and I was just thinking about that a second ago, Zlatan is a highlight show unto himself.
Right.
You know, he's a guy that you come to watch play soccer in a way that others just can't. Rooney, at his best, was a great player. He's probably 6 years past his best.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just one of those things that it'll help DC United sell tickets in their new stadium over the next year or two, but will it really push this thing to a higher level? I'll say no.
I think
it'll expose MLS in England and
bit
in places that Manchester United is a big deal, and I'm thinking the Far East, Africa. It'll expose DC United and MLS, give it a little more exposure in those markets, but in the United States, it's not gonna. Are you gonna buy tickets to go see Wayne Rooney play?
No, probably not.
There you go.
I think it's just because he doesn't have the flash, like you said, that Zlatan has.
Right.
And also, Zlatan just has a sort of off-field personality and swagger, charm, whatever you want to call it, that, it makes you're just interested in what's going on with him off the field. And
Zlatan's been on, every talk show.
Right.
I mean, I actually ran out of time. I used to try and watch every interview he did in the United States, and now there's just too many. So Zlatan's everywhere. Wayne Rooney's boring.
Kind of. I've never been interested
as a player.
in
and it's funny because they're both family men. They both have, stay home and hang out with their kids. But the way Zlatan carries himself compared to Rooney is show business versus something else. Soccer business, yeah.
Well, so I'm seeing that Wayne Rooney will try to play as soon as July to be there when their new field opens.
Right.
For
The
DC
MLS
United.
transfer window opens on July 10th. DC Stadium opens July 14th.
And do you think that's realistic to just have him step in right away? I mean, they can always just put him on the field, but
probably come off the bench.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's exciting for DC. I think it'll,
especially since they won't be playing for playoff positioning, or
so yeah, DC United.
You did say they were in last.
In these, they're tied for least amount of points in all of MLS, and they're in last in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, so they have to do something to create a little excitement and bring Rooney on for 30 minutes in his first game. He won't score as good a goal as Zlatan did. I promise that.
I think it'll move the needle in DC and kind of not really anywhere else. Maybe when they play the Galaxy, like Rooney versus Zlatan is kind of a headline in itself, but hardly doesn't excite Marcus. That's for sure.
No, that was your first question. Am I excited? No. And Wayne Rooney's a great player. He's a complete. I mean, he's the best English player of his generation, and maybe the best English player of the last 50 years, possibly. But as we have seen, English soccer storylines don't resonate in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Pains me to say it, but yeah, it's we saw it. Frank Lampard came here, and Steven Gerrard came here.
Yeah.
How did they do in MLS?
Well,
just say I don't know.
I don't know exactly. You need some sort of extra. You need something extra.
Star power.
Yeah.
And these guys are stars at home because England loves their soccer.
Yeah.
Wayne Rooney is an obsession in England. Everything he says or does is, you know, it's news. Wayne Rooney. But here, I look at the search data. Nobody's searching for Wayne Rooney, other than today. And that's why we're talking about it, because the news is breaking today. A week from now, it'll be something else.
How good do you think he'll be as an MLS player?
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still think he has enough in the tank to really show well in Major League Soccer. He was good for Everton in his first few months there, but he's been kind of moved around and hasn't, as Everton has improved under Sam Allardyce, he's been, his influence has been diminishing. So
right. Well,
he's old.
Yeah, he's
32. He'll be 33 in October, and you know, he's talked about playing, moving back from striker to midfield, and then when he went to Everton, he was playing striker again, and then Sam Allardyce came and talked about him as a midfielder. So I don't even know where he'll play. But he'll be a good player. I mean, get the ball to Wayne Rooney. He knows how to play games and win games. So yeah, he will be effective in MLS. How much are they paying him? We don't know. I thought I saw something like it was a £12.5 million deal, but I don't know. You know, how much of that is the transfer fee? How much of that is the salary? £12.5 million, about 16 million US. He's not getting that unless it's
well, I think
over 2.5 years.
Not to predict sort of how it'll all go for Wayne Rooney in the United States. I think but I think I know how it's going to go. He's going to come. He's going to play in his first game in that stadium opening. It'll be another big headline for a day and a half. And then people might check up on him the next game they play. And then after that, when you're watching and happen to be watching a DC United match, you're going to be reminded to yourself, oh yeah, Wayne Rooney's on DC United.
Yeah.
And he'll probably be playing very well. But
will you watch DC United play because Wayne Rooney's playing?
I think if they get better, like if they, you know, I mean, it's still relatively early in the MLS season. So if they somehow work their way into like a playoff contention, I mean, the MLS playoffs are always pretty exciting.
How many Everton games did you watch this season?
One. His first one back. I watched the first one.
Okay.
And he scored. It was very exciting.
All right.
But that, I mean...
I'll stand down.
What, because I watched one game?
No, nobody's going to tune in to watch Wayne Rooney.
Yeah.
Nobody in the United States.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a big headline for a day and a half. But...
When I say nobody, I mean nobody outside of the...
Soccer.
Millions of MLS fans.
Right.
I don't even think, you know, maybe some Manchester United fans might check out a half just for novelty, but he'll sell some tickets in DC, sell some jerseys, and then that'll be it. I don't see him as a game changer. And yeah, he's somebody who comes in and he'll probably retire after that.
Well, so this past weekend, some current stars in their prime clashed in El Clasico. And the one thing kind of going into this version of the El Clasico was that there wasn't really much to play for in terms of trophies or position in La Liga or really much of anything, and it was kind of more or less a game for pride. The only thing was Barcelona is trying to go unbeaten throughout an entire La Liga season, which is definitely a big deal.
Yeah.
But
I don't think that's happened since 1932 or something like that. It's been since the 30s.
And the game ended up being a draw, 2-2, so that keeps that hope alive for Barcelona.
Mm-hmm.
But this game was very chippy and full of passion, and just kind of had the feeling of, oh yeah, even though we shouldn't need to be reminded, it doesn't matter what the situation is, Barcelona versus Real Madrid is always going to be full of passion, and any one of these matchups can be fireworks.
Yeah. I wonder how much of that started. Barcelona trying to go unbeaten is one thing, but the guard of honor thing.
Right.
I'm wondering how much that played into can I call it bloodshed that went on during the game?
Well, why don't you explain exactly what the guard of honor was and what happened?
Okay, Barcelona clinched the league title several weeks ago, and it's tradition in Spain where once a team has been, declared champions, for the rest of their games over the course of the season, the opposing team will clap them onto the field. Both sides, they'll form a gauntlet and clap. Now, this game went on at Camp Nou, Barcelona Stadium.
Yeah.
Real Madrid refused to do it because...
Yeah, exactly why?
Well, Real Madrid said it was because Barcelona didn't give them a guard of honor in their last meeting, which came after, I could be botching these facts, but or it might have been last season, where Real Madrid won the FIFA Club World Cup and wanted Barcelona to clap them onto the field. Barcelona wouldn't do it.
Because it wasn't the La Liga title.
No, Barcelona said it's because they weren't in the competition. Real Madrid said you were in the competition because we got to that competition through the Champions League, which we won and you didn't, which is kind of a
they're just kind of
D move. That's what they said. So Barcelona did not clap Real Madrid onto the field. This was payback. Real Madrid didn't clap Barcelona onto the field. So Barcelona had their staff perform the guard of honor, which was just
so stupid.
Just weird. Yeah, it was weird. So all this went on before the opening whistle, and then once the game started, it was blood and thunder for.
Right. I think the biggest headline coming out of it was that Ronaldo was taken off at halftime with an injury.
Yeah.
And he injured his ankle and didn't immediately come out of the game.
Yeah, he stayed on for another 30 minutes, I think.
Yeah, but I guess there's a couple tackles that he just didn't go hard into, which, I think at the end of the day, this is probably a minor injury, and you just don't want to risk Ronaldo for the second
it's
half.
Minor except for the timing.
Right, exactly.
Which was, 18 days before the Champions League final or something like that.
Would you expect him to pretty much just not play again until the Champions League final?
Well, no. I would expect him to try and get at least 30 minutes in somewhere. I don't know. Let me just look at Real Madrid's schedule. Villarreal on the 19th, and then so that is a week from Saturday. They play Celta Vigo Saturday. I don't expect him to play there.
Yeah.
Then they play Villarreal on the 19th, next Saturday. I would expect him to appear in that game. Probably not start, definitely not 90 minutes, and then be good for the Champions League final.
Yeah.
And they'll manage his injury and recovery for that, with that goal in mind, because I don't know if Real Madrid can finish second in La Liga, but I don't think there's much to play for.
Right. And finishing second doesn't really change
they've got
much.
2 games, 3 points behind Atletico Madrid.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe they could do it.
And one thing is, Gareth Bale seems to be playing a little bit better recently.
Scored a nice goal.
And that's something that, at least when it comes to Champions League, I feel like we're always talking about how Gareth Bale is either not in form or not on the field at all.
No, he's either on the field doing well or not on the field at all. I put this in because Gareth Bale, I think, will be a bit of an X factor in this Champions League final. If he is back at his best, that's bad news for Liverpool. And Bale, who has been out for so much this season and last season, he has time. He has 2 more games in La Liga to really, I'm not sure if he played yesterday in the loss to Sevilla, but if he gets himself, really backfiring, that's tough for Liverpool. That's between him, Benzema, and Ronaldo. This is going to be a game between 2 highly touted front threes.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about this earlier this season about which team has the best front 3 in the league.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, and not in the league, but in the world. And I said it was Real Madrid. So
I think, we don't want to get into a Champions League final preview, but I think it's going to be such an exciting game because so typically whoever's playing goes into the game trying to not make a mistake and being so cautious.
Yeah.
But both offenses are so high powered.
Right.
That I think, even though they might even be trying to hold back a little bit and not make a mistake, it's still going to be very exciting just with all the talent that's there.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd agree.
But yeah, anything else from El Clasico that we want to make sure we talk about? Messi scored?
Yeah, Messi scored. He always scores. I think he's the highest. He's the top scorer in the in El Clasico history, I believe.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Well, you want to talk a little bit about PSG.
Yeah.
And I guess you're going to have fun with this one.
I am. PSG won the treble, domestic treble in France for the 3rd time in 4 years, which is incredible.
Right.
And they beat Les Herbiers, which is a 3rd-tier French team in the French Cup final.
Really?
On Tuesday.
3rd tier.
3rd tier, yeah. And it was in a nice moment, Thiago Silva, PSG's captain, invited Les Herbiers captain, whose name I do not know, to lift the trophy together. Anyway.
That is a nice one.
I was talking to a friend of mine after the game. He supports PSG. And I said, I didn't know at the time what the result was. I said, hey, what was the final score of the French Cup final? And he said, what?
Hey.
It didn't occur to him that PSG was playing that day and this is a team he supports. He flew to Paris about a month ago and attended a PSG game, and I saw all the video and the photos, and he didn't even know they were playing in the French Cup final.
Yikes.
And I looked at him and I was like, are you guys that obsessed with the Champions League that you just can't even be bothered? And PSG is becoming Bayern Munich, where their domestic league is their domestic competition is so far behind.
Right.
The only thing that can make them happy is the Champions League. And I don't think that's any way to live.
It's kind of a lot of pressure, especially since
it's putting all your eggs into February, March, April, and May.
Right.
Every year. And everything else is just a bit of an afterthought.
Plus, it just makes it so difficult because the domestic competition is pretty watered down. And then you have to kind of play these teams that you're beating 4-0, 5-0 week after week, and then all of a sudden you're facing Real Madrid.
Yeah.
And even though you have a world-class team, you just haven't. Yeah, you just haven't had this iron sharpens iron competition sort of thing that I guess in La Liga and in Premier League you really get. And then I would say in Serie A and in Bundesliga it's a little bit better as well. And kind of keeps those teams a little more prepared. But yeah, you don't want to. it kind of takes a lot of the fun out of the season as well as a fan.
I felt bad for him.
Yeah, you're only excited for a handful of games.
Maybe 6 games out of 60 that his team will play. Can we call those first world problems?
I guess so.
First world soccer problems?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, my team's too good. They're so good, most of the games that they play don't matter.
Yeah, I mean, but at the same time, the club isn't really, well, I mean, the club is Champions League obsessed, but like they're still winning all the domestic stuff. So like, what else is there? What are they really supposed to do? Start losing the domestic competitions just to make them more interesting?
Make things interesting? I don't know.
The rest of the French league has to come up. I mean, they can't all get to PSG's level, but they have to, start beating them in these cup matches, and somebody else.
What if they can't?
Well, I mean, Monaco won the league 2 years ago, didn't they?
I think it was last year. They won
last year. But I think PSG ran away with it again this year.
And I was just reading. I mean, this is happening in Italy as well. I think Juventus just won the Coppa Italia, and I think it was their 4th straight. They just won their 7th straight Scudetto. So
did they officially win?
No, they haven't. Sorry,
but I think
they're about a point away from.
They can only lose on goal differential at this point. They're 6 points up with 2 matches to go.
Okay, so
they're probably going to
Yeah,
win.
let's give them their 7th straight Serie A title, 4th straight Coppa Italia title. That's 4 straight doubles. PSG won a treble 3 times in 4 years. That is utter domination. Bayern Munich is a win away from another double. I can look up how many they've won in recent seasons, but winning doubles that's dominant.
Yeah,
it's domination, and this is now happening in France, Germany, Italy.
The thing in Italy, at least, and I only know this because of how I follow the Serie A, Juventus has won, but they haven't run away with it by 20 points every year.
No.
There have been several years where it's been very close, whether this year's Napoli is making them kind of sweat it out towards the end. Mm-hmm. Roma, I think, was 3 points off one year. And it's just, there is still a lot of competition within the Serie A between, kind of places 2 through 6.
Yeah.
Which keeps it exciting. But you're right. I mean, it kind of gets boring when the same team continues to win these domestic leagues.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the Bundesliga since 2013, the last 6 seasons. Bayern has done the double 1, 2, 3 and counting.
Yeah.
So between Bayern, Juventus, PSG, do we just start the European Super League already and stop pretending like all this other stuff is ever in doubt?
It is kind of like why maybe La Liga and Premier League are more popular, I think, on a worldwide scale, is because, first of all, La Liga, you have the 2 best players, and Real Madrid and Barcelona are constantly fighting for the top spot. Mm-hmm. But Atletico seems to be right up there too, and you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know how the season's going to play out. And in Premier
There's
League,
always a third team in Spain that gives a challenge.
Premier League seems to be the big clubs, but then there's, some other teams can sometimes work themselves into European competition and contention.
Sure.
And that keeps that league probably the most exciting. Mm-hmm. But, and we're kind of going off the rails here, but
it's actually a good segue.
I think so too. It's a good segue because we wanted to talk about the end of the English and German seasons.
And I think we just answered it. So what do we? Well, Manchester City won the Premier League and nothing else.
Right.
So the question was, what do we learn from?
I thought about this last night when you posed the question to me yesterday. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure what I've learned.
Yeah, your biggest takeaways from so the Premier League and the Bundesliga will end this weekend, and another 10 months in the books, another season. Yeah, I mean, I guess my main takeaway was that there are two teams that are a lot better than everyone else, and you know, it's a bit of a wake-up call, I think, for the rest of the rest of the teams in Germany and England.
I agree that
It's not my hottest take, but
no, it's not.
You know,
but I think I have maybe a warm take that Man City, you win your league by 20 points, that you have to be the best team in the league, clearly.
yeah,
But I think the one thing that maybe I learned is that by maybe having disappointing finishes in other competitions, maybe that gap of 20 points, even though Man City is the best team, maybe the gap isn't actually 20 points. Maybe it's closer to like a 10-point gap when it's all said and done. If you actually get down to the nitty-gritty. And maybe, let's not be surprised if next December we see Man City in the 3rd or 4th spot and not exactly running away with the league again.
Yeah, nobody's defended the Premier League since Manchester United did it in 2007-8, I believe.
Yeah.
It's been about 10 years since somebody's done it successfully, so it's one of the harder things to do.
Having said that, I will be surprised if in December Bayern Munich is not on top of the Bundesliga again.
Well, you remember how they started. They fired Carlo Ancelotti, so it is possible for these teams to slip up, just not probable. Let me see what the gap is in the Bundesliga.
It's 24 points I'm looking at now.
All right.
Schalke, FC Schalke. And Dortmund's in 3rd.
So which gap is realer, Man City's or...
I think the Bundesliga gap is realer.
Okay.
Just because it's, Man City comes out and they've played so well this year. I mean, this is kind of run of the mill for Bayern Munich to be up by this many points.
Yeah.
And I think Dortmund had a very disappointing season. I mean, there was a lot of hype around them heading into the season. Maybe that's just sort of the American. It was more of an American thing with the Pulisic star power, and U.S. hadn't been eliminated from the World Cup yet, and people were all excited about this Christian Pulisic and his European exploits in the Champions League the year before.
Yeah. But does that mean there were a lot of people really pushing for Dortmund to...
I think, I remember they got drawn into the group of death.
A lot of Americans, I would say. Yeah.
They got drawn into the Champions League group of death, and I kind of had confidence I was excited to see how they would do in that group, and they kind of got smacked around.
Yeah, they were.
And it kind of just transferred right over to the Bundesliga, and they've lost 8 matches, drawn 10.
Yeah, it's not good enough.
I'm kind of surprised that they aren't in kind of a tougher competition to be in Champions League contention.
No, they're only,
and they haven't clinched yet.
One game left, and they're only 3 points up on, they could still blow it.
They could still blow it.
+3 goal differential, +6, yeah.
I'm actually looking now, yeah, so
if they
Hoffenheim
lose,
is in
Hoffenheim
4th.
and Leverkusen.
Well, Dortmund and Hoffenheim play each other this weekend.
Whoa.
So that's a match to watch. We're going to talk about some matches to watch. If you can see Dortmund versus Hoffenheim, Saturday at 9:30 a.m.
I have a game to watch this weekend.
Possibly on Fox Sports 1.
Finally.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I'll check that out. Assuming I'm awake at 9 a.m.
9:30, 30 extra minutes.
Oh, then I'll be up.
And also, we were going to mention in the Premier League, the Champions League race is kind of down to 4th and 5th place. It's Liverpool in 4th, Chelsea in 5th. Chelsea is 2 points back of Liverpool. So obviously, Chelsea has to win, Liverpool has to lose for them to flip spots and for Liverpool to kind of blow their Champions League status, because they were in 3rd place, I think, a few days ago.
Yeah.
And it's all kind of turned over, and it comes down to the last weekend.
That would be, boy, I don't even want to.
It is fun that
it is possible that Liverpool could fall out of the Champions League.
But if they win the Champions League, then they're back in. If they win the final.
Lose the Champions League final.
And then not be in the competition. When was the last time that happened? Probably more recently than we think.
I don't remember.
Yeah. Well, Liverpool will host Brighton.
But it would take a lot of unexpected things to happen for that to.
Chelsea is at Newcastle. Liverpool will host Brighton. I would expect them both to win those matches.
Right.
And if Liverpool wins, they're in.
So is Tottenham already in?
Tottenham is secure. They're 4 points up on Chelsea. So.
Okay, so they can't fall further than fourth. Wow.
And so that covers the Premier League and the Bundesliga. So kind of your big matches.
Maybe we should stew on that question for another week, until next week. The biggest takeaways of the season.
Yeah, I mean, next week we'll be looking
other than
at the end
Manchester City's really, really good.
At the end of, or next week we'll also be looking at the Serie A and La Liga and what we've learned from them. But we kind of wrap up everything with the English and German leagues coming to an end.
Manchester City broke the Premier League record for most goals scored in a season yesterday.
Oh.
So there's that.
There is that.
Yeah, they're good.
As long as we're mentioning one-off things.
With 105.
So Huddersfield clinched another year in the Premier League with a draw yesterday.
Yeah.
And instead of...
American coach.
What's the coach's name?
David Wagner.
There you go.
German-American.
Yeah.
Still American.
Instead of flying from London back to Huddersfield, they canceled their flight and rented a party bus and partied for 4 hours on the road all the way back to Huddersfield. And yeah, it's just kind of a...
Do they have practice today?
What's that?
Do they have practice today?
I would imagine that they pretty much are just going to show up for their last game, play the kids, not really worry about it.
Wow. I did not expect Huddersfield to stay up. Stoke City down, West Brom down, Swansea.
So Swansea can technically remain
if they make up 9 goals on Southampton.
9 goals, so they're probably down.
Yeah, they're down. Wow. That's 3 teams that have been around for some time. And I said on Twitter recently, I don't see West Brom coming back anytime soon. Stoke, it could get really bad if they've got some guys who I just don't see them willing to play in that second division. And then Swansea, their supporters trust, which owns I think 20% of the shares, just aired a no confidence vote about their chairman, Hugh Jenkins. So
it's no good.
Yeah, I could see all 3 of these teams struggling to come back, certainly right away. But I think I said I don't see West Brom coming back in the next 5 years.
Right.
And
well,
so long.
We've got to wrap it up here, but just a reminder: you're going to watch Dortmund versus Hoffenheim Saturday 9:30 a.m. And then if you want to keep your eye on the Premier League, you got Liverpool and Chelsea. Everybody kicks off at 10 a.m. on Sunday in the Premier League. So 10 a.m. Sunday, tune in there. And we'll be back next week with some more breakdown of European soccer, maybe some more MLS news. And the Champions League final creeps closer.
Yes.
And we'll have all the latest news with that. Thanks for tuning in. If you want to continue to follow us, go to iTunes and search NESN, that's NESN, to follow all NESN podcasts. Thanks for joining us and enjoy your soccer this weekend.